What's up? Alright, in this video I'm going to be talking about the time that I accidentally dropped 8 hits of acid. Seriously. So before we get into it, let me start off this video by saying that I am a recovering addict. I've got a little over 4 months right now of sobriety, and YouTube and other outlets help to keep me sane and sober. So, with that being said, let's get into it. So this took place about 4 or 5 years ago, and at the time I was living with my dad at his trailer, which was at a cemetery. So he kind of ran the grounds out there, he maintained it, and the owner let us pretty much stay out there next to the big ass garage where all the equipment would be. In fact, my first video on this channel, the Benadryl video, I filmed it in that garage, so it gives you an idea, it's a huge garage. So I knew that I wanted the trip since I knew that I had the next couple nights off. So I called my friend, asked him if I can buy some off of him and if he wanted to come over and just chill, and he was down. So he comes over and he had an eyedropper just full of it, and the plan was that I was originally just going to take 3 hits. Just listen to music and just chill with the garage door open, so I had that beautiful like outside view. And it was nighttime and there were hardly like any lights where we lived, so like you could always usually see the stars, and it was just really nice and peaceful. Well, I go ahead and pay for my 3 hits. He hands me the eyedropper. I go ahead and hold my tongue out, and I thought I was squeezing it very lightly, but apparently not. It came out so fast, I'm pretty sure I counted about 8 hits. And my friend, nicely enough, did not charge me for those extra hits because he knew that he probably should have just dropped them for me. Well, and plus, he just got a kick out of it anyway, knowing that I was about to be tripping way too hard. So of course, I start freaking out a little bit, and he's trying to get me to calm down a little bit, but that's kind of hard when I just took 8 hits of very good acid. But I did calm down a bit, and I figured, alright, let's just ride it out, and I'll just try to stay calm as I possibly can. And we turned on some music, and we were just chilling, talking, and I mean, it was already coming on in like 15 minutes though. It's hard to describe what I felt like when I was coming up, but I was very anxious, my leg was shaking a lot, things were starting to move slightly, and sounds began to have like a subtle reverb to them. And I was still pretty nervous because I had never, not once, thought about taking that much acid in my life. Because it's just one of those drugs that is not meant to be fucked with. Things can get very real very quick on that stuff. And I don't want to say I was scared, just nervous, because I had no idea what to expect on a dose like that. So anyway, about 40 minutes in, my anxiety was starting to get very intense, and everything around me was changing so fast. Like, I remember seeing to the corner of my eye, things were starting to like swirl and sway. My hearing was intensified by like 1,000 times. I remember Kid Cudi was playing, and it was the song King Wizard, and I remember that I could hear every detail in that song, like every instrument. And when I closed my eyes, I could like see this entire trippy music video going on in my head. Like, it was very abstract, but it was all going so perfectly with the music. And I've always had a thing for closed eye visuals. I used to take certain drugs just for that purpose, so I could just sit there and close my eyes and just watch all night. Anyway, so I was starting to actually feel pretty good, and I was starting to feel a little confident that maybe I'll actually have a really nice time and maybe learn something along the way. But as time went by, things were starting to get a lot more intense. I remember looking at the dirt on the ground, and I remember seeing like Aztec-ish kind of patterns, and it was like moving different directions. I started to hear voices, but not like a delirium or anything. It was just like memories, like something that I had maybe heard earlier that day. I just heard it in my head, and it would kind of echo and fade away. And what seemed like a bunch of random things, maybe it could have had some kind of significance to it. So here I am, just thinking it's still going to be a great learning experience, and hell, maybe I'll get enlightened. But about an hour and a half in, things started to take a turn. My friend was sitting on this mower, and it had these handles that you use to control it, that you can move back and forth. And my friend was sitting there moving them back and forth, and it made this like horror movie sounding, like, and it was taking my mind into a whole nother direction. So I asked him to stop because it was fucking with me, and he did. So I just sat down, I tried to relax, but my visuals were so intense, like I was pretty much blind from all the shit that was happening. I tried to walk outside so I could let that fresh air hit me, and so I could just go look out into the field. Because usually I could look out into this field on acid and I would see it just move like an ocean. So I thought that this might calm me down and maybe get my composure back. Well, as I was trying to walk outside, I was stumbling all over the place. It was like the wind was literally taking me with it, like I was a feather in the wind. So that was pretty much a no-go. So I sat back down in the garage and I just looked out instead, and the music had actually stopped, which started to make me feel pretty weird. And my friend was sitting beside me shooting a BB gun at some water bottles that he had set up outside. And he was just sitting there shooting these bottles, and every time he shot the BB gun, he would always go, "Oh shit, oh shit. And he just kept doing that. And I don't know why, but I started to get kind of freaked out by it. So I thought he was the devil, basically, and I thought that I was going to be one of the devil's dog's chew toys. All because he was just sitting there shooting that gun. So I was in my own head, and it was not pretty. I started to overthink things that my friend would say, and I basically thought that he was in my head trying to fuck with me. But of course, in reality, he was not trying to do that at all. Like, he had no idea that I thought he was intentionally fucking with me. So I turned the music back on, and I was just trying to walk around, just trying my best to enjoy myself. And my friend kept saying things to me, and I tried to listen to what he was saying, but I just couldn't. Like, it would go in one ear and out the other, like words did not mean anything to me. So then of course I started thinking, is this what I do? Do I never actually listen to what people have to say? Am I a shitty person? Then I would start to get these flashbacks of times that I had actually done that in my everyday life. And I never cared about what people were saying. It would just go in one ear and out the other. Like when someone's talking to you and you're acting like you're listening the whole time, and then they ask you a question about it and you just go, wait, what? Like, it makes you look like an asshole. I mean, I guess that was me back then, basically. So then my friend attempts to calm me down. He starts telling me all kinds of good things, and now I'm starting to think that maybe he's a god. He's in on all of it. So I thought that he was showing me my life in this room, and people were just watching my everyday life. Like, if you've ever watched The Truman Show, it was just a lot like that. Like, my whole life was a play, and everybody but me was in on it. So he sees that I'm clearly confused and a bit distraught, so he says, hey, let's go jump in the golf cart, let's go drive around the cemetery. And I'm like, alright, let's do that. So we hop in the golf cart, and at first it felt amazing. I mean, the wind blowing in my face was just awesome, and moving fast in the dirt road was like a roller coaster, and it was really dark out, so it was just a bunch of trippy shit all around me. So it was this big cemetery with a bunch of roads around it and through it. So as we're driving on these roads, I suddenly began to think that he's the devil again, and he's taking me to be dumped off into this hellish dumpster. As I thought I was human trash and that this was my punishment. I remember literally feeling like I was being lifted up and like I was about to be dumped off into this dump. I remember holding on to the golf cart so I wouldn't fall out whenever I was getting dumped out. And I kept dragging my foot on the road to stop him, and he would stop and ask if I'm alright, and I told him what I thought was happening, so he started taking it slow. But I still kept feeling like I was being lifted up and was literally about to be dumped out. Kept dragging my foot on the road to make him stop, so he drove us back to the garage so I could just kind of relax. So this was about 3 or 4 hours in. It was pretty late, and he said that he needed to get home soon. So I was like, alright man, I'll just go inside, put some headphones on, and just try to relax and trip out. So for him to leave, that means I would have to follow him in the golf cart to the entrance of the cemetery so I could lock up, and then I would have to drive back to the garage. So I started to follow his truck, and I'm on this dirt road, and I must have blacked out at one point because I apparently veered off into this field of really tall grass, and I had no idea where I was or how I got there. So of course I start panicking a little bit. I'm starting to look around to see if I can see anything familiar, and I'm tripping way too hard, and my visuals are just so intense, nothing at all looks familiar to me. So it's dark, I'm out here by myself, I start hearing coyotes in the distance, and I'm a little scared because I'm lost on a lot of acid. So I pull my phone out to call my friend, and I see that my phone is literally at exactly 1% battery left. So now I'm freaking out even more. I try to call him as fast as I can. He picks up, and as soon as he does, phone dies. So now of course I'm really panicking, and turns out my friend was actually looking for me the entire time. He said that he saw me veer off into the field, and what felt like forever to me was actually only a couple minutes. So he finds me, and I am so relieved. He helps me get the cart back on the dirt road, and I would go to follow him to the entrance of the cemetery successfully this time. And he nicely enough pulled his truck outside the entrance. He locked it for me, then he drove me back to the garage, and then he would go to walk all the way back to his truck, which was really awesome of him to do. So I wrap up everything in the garage, go inside, put some headphones on, listen to Spangle, turned on the TV, and Tom and Jerry was on. So I would spend the rest of that night pretty much just listening to Spangle and watching Tom and Jerry until I eventually passed out. Woke up the next day remembering pretty much almost everything that happened, and I started to try to better myself by, actually listening to people and what they had to say instead of letting it go one ear out the other. Basically just wanted to be a better person. But anyways, yeah, that is the time that I accidentally dropped 8 hits of acid. Guys, if you made it this far, thank you so much. It really means a ton to me. If you liked it, leave a like, comment, subscribe if you want to hear more of these kinds of stories, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you guys again for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.